Cheers everyone, Cloudfather here. Just got the release candidate 6, so I thought we'd go ahead and install that. Release candidate 5 was unstable. The problem it was having is that some of the processes were losing communication between each other, and what you would see is the laser would finish jobs, but if you left it overnight just sitting idle, it couldn't find the laser. It would be disconnected. So going through the normal install, and then we'll put a couple little projects in to see if anything else interesting happens. Good man science project for this week. I do compliment the lightburn guys. They were really on top of trying to get the beta release clean. So a great bunch of folks to work with. That's why I really like their product. Now I am installing all the drivers even though I have a diode laser. The reason for that is if there's any issues with driver combinations that have interactions, we'll see that. Oh nice, they have a new change log, I like that. They've added some shape builder stuff, custom IP stuff, new license dialog flow. Bunch of just little good things. I'm going to have to dig through those tonight to see if any of what I was observing was causing me a problem. One thing you notice right off the bat is the camera is working finally. Let's see if both cameras work. Yep. Yeah, before I was having problems with cameras not working, overlays not working. No, that's working good. Bear in mind the overlay that I'm showing here. See if I can get my camera pointed down a little better. Since we'll do most of our stuff from here. By the way, if you're interested in what is turning out to be a really nice camera, is the DJI Osmo 3. Really a sweet little camera. It takes great pictures. So let's go take a look here. I'm going to load up a file. So it did remember the recents. Let's go to Laser Tools, Manage Devices. It's finding the correct driver, so that's good. Go into Device Settings. And what I'm looking for is if it still has the same settings, that's correct. That looks good. Yep. Good. Yep, so that looks good. G-code there won't be much change to. Let's read from the controller. Okay, as you can see over here in the console, it actually did go through and read the controller. And that's exactly what it should do. So it's gone in and updated maximum speed, millimeters per second in X and Y, acceleration, engrave acceleration, rapid speed, corner accuracy, minimum corner speed, cut scale speed, and global scale speed. So again, this page, when you hit the read from controller, actually goes out to the laser, which you saw just happen over here, and it grabs all the values. Just for grins. Let's type in a couple commands here. Okay, there's the full list of commands. And when I go through and check settings, I usually go through this whole list when I'm going between different versions, just looking for anything obvious that is off. You know, having S32 to 1 is kind of important, so on and so forth, so the laser works properly. Nope, those all look good. So it looks like we're there. We'll look at cuts and layers. Yes, it did remember correctly. That one I'm going to change in a minute. Let's look at the macros. That's still in the same place. Let's do a frame. And you can hear it framing there. We'll go over to the camera to update the overlay. Now I'm going to use the little move dot and center it on the workpiece. And what I'm checking for is to see both if that is working, but also it's a good place to check the autofocus. So now we're executing an autofocus command. So I may need to home it first. So it moved it to the right place, but it threw an error. It's possible my laser has slipped down. I might not have tightened the tension correctly. Well, let's try that again. Again, we'll use the little dot underneath the A here to position the laser, which it does. And I really hate the way they did the macros because I have to switch between two different screens to even see what's happening. So it sent the ESP5000 macro, which is autofocus for this machine. That's a bug. It shouldn't be giving an alarm. It did focus correctly. It went up and down twice. Let me run the manual focus here, see if we get the same kind of problem. So it touched again, and it returned to where it was supposed to. But it's giving an alarm 1, which it shouldn't do. I'm not too concerned about that. We'll go do some other tests here. But when you get a beta release, these are the kind of things you want to test. So we'll let it home. I'm also just going to hit the home command. That's telling it to home twice. But we'll see if it frames correctly. So it is doing that. Another thing I wanted to check in the move menu, yeah, the fire is at 2%. That's a little high, I don't really need it there. One of the things I was going to play with is put it at 0.25 to see if I actually see it. Someone gave me a suggestion about that the other day and I wanted to give it a try. So we'll do the framing again. Yeah, 0.25 works. That's good. You always want to run the fire command at the lowest possible power that allows you to see it looking through your orange-red safety shield. And I don't even bother with the red display because it's so far off and it wiggles. I always use the fire command in the move menu, which is right here. So we still have this problem. They need to set the minimum distance not to 0, but to 1. because otherwise it doesn't move. And then you wonder why. So I've set that to 1. That's distance, 1 millimeter, speed 6, Z distance 0, Z speed 6. And what I'm going to do now is manually move the laser. Yeah, it's doing that just fine. The other thing that we had a problem with is the Z-axis was not working correctly. So what I'm going to do is move the laser using the dot, put it back in a safe place to focus. The reason why I'm doing this is I don't want to accidentally crash into the bed. So now the laser head is sitting right in the center of the tile that's in there. That way I can go through and run the autofocus macro and watch the console. And I do expect this to fail because there was a problem. Yeah, it's hard limit triggering, which it shouldn't do. So we'll clear the display, go grab my favorite little hex tool. Nope, the limit switch is adjusted correctly. That was the beeping you heard. I was manually hit it with my finger. So between version 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the limit switch worked correctly. In version 6, or RC6, the limit switch isn't functioning normally. So that'll be another little mystery we have to solve. Again, I'm not too worried about the focus at this point. Now, since we're going on tile is very different than what we've been running before. And the thing we have to remember is we actually want to use quite low power, because what we're doing is machining off various layers of paint. And there's 5 layers on this before you get down to white. So we're going to drop the power quite a bit. I think we'll run it at 20. Speed-wise, I'm going to try a quick pass at 10.5. I think I also want to do a negative image. I'm going to go to 170 DPI just for runtime shortening. Let me do a quick preview. And now for the interesting choice. Do I want to have a white image with almost no background? Although I do have grayscale in parts of this. Or do I want it inverted, which will basically give me a white image with a little bit of grayscale? I think I want to invert it. So we'll go back and hit our image. We'll set it up. It's on negative image. Let me put it on positive image, which is what I meant to have, but I forgot I'd use this in another thing. We'll rerun the preview here to make sure I'm thinking straight. Yeah, that's the one I want to run. One of these days I need to take that little black bar out, but for this test I don't really care. So we've got everything set up. We're going to run pretty quick at low power. It's going from, that's what I forgot to look at. Yeah, we're going from 250 to 20. An interesting thing I found with this is You actually get better result with minimum power at 250 than you do at 0. Why that's true, I'm not really sure, but it's just something that seems to be consistent. The other thing is I like to fill shapes individually, but it won't let me do it in grayscale. So we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and fire this. It's going to take 16 minutes and 46 seconds. So I will check back with you in about 20 minutes. Okay, quick update. I went and checked different ways of setting up the focus for autofocus, and that is clearly broken in release candidate 6. No matter what you do, you get all kinds of limit errors. The other thing I noticed is that when you go to the move panel, which it's running right now so you can't see it, but it's not reporting the z-axis. It's always 0. Normally, when you do a home and you do get position, you'll get x0, y0, z equals 14, which is actually 15 since the computer counts from 0. It's not doing that, so the autofocusing is lost and confused. So what I've done is slowed the speed down to 3,000. I'm still running 20% at 35 watts. And what I'm looking for is, do we start getting some image showing up on the piece of tile I'm playing with, and looking to see what other interesting little problems we have. That's a fairly big one, though. It really is, because all of us use the focusing constantly. I'm not going to play with the camera stuff because I've already tested that. That was working the way it usually does, which is with the camera I have, not especially useful. You have to have the right focal length. So they haven't really changed anything in the menuing or anything like that. I'm going to enable the debug log and debug drawing so I can send them information on what's going on. I'm going to generate the support data. It's in my clipboard now, so I'm going to go over and see if I still have a working copy of Notepad. Oh, AB Editor will work. And so we will paste the diagnostic data, which is a big long string. And then we'll just save that. And then we'll reuse this file. So we're going to save this. That's interesting. Lightburn is, oh, I see what it did. It wanted a file name, it just did it in the wrong place. Sorry, I have a dual screen, so sometimes things show up on the left-hand side. Let's see, RC6, debug log. Now we need to find a place to put it. So we have the file saved. That way we can add to it as we run if we run into any more problems. So I'm wondering if the power settings on the laser are working properly, because I'm not getting an image at 3,000. I'm going to stop this and we'll go run a higher speed, but we'll increase the power quite a bit. So we'll run this at, yeah, there's all kinds of problems with this release. But we'll keep playing, see what we can learn. I'm going to go to 16,000. And just for grins, I'm going to go to 60 on the power. And the goal here is just to see if we can get an image. So it's running. We'll see what kind of image we actually get. It'll probably take it 2 or 3 minutes before we get far enough. But I'll restart this recording in a couple more minutes. I'll get back to you as soon as this is far enough along so we can see what it's doing. Okay, we are now starting to get some engraved image. And we're running at 60% and a speed of 16,000. What we're checking for is how much power per layer is it going to take. This has 5 layers of paint on it, so as I increase the power or decrease the speed a little bit, we will uncover more layers, because right now we're milling off the paint. And we're taking about, I think the paint is about 1/10 of a mil thick. That's pretty typical for spray paint on tile. So we have about 3/10 or 4/10 of a mil to burn off before we get to the white underneath. So it may take several passes to go in and get the range of colors that we need. But we'll do this a little bit at a time. It's kind of like peeling the layers off an onion. And again, we're running in grayscale mode. The other thing I'm going to do is the next pass I'm actually going to do in sketch mode. And that'll help firm up the outline of the image. And then we'll continue to run grayscale mode passes after that to see what kind of result we can get from that. And again, we're peeling away layer by layer. Now, the other problem we have is autofocus doesn't work at all right now. I have manually focused it at 15 using the focusing block. I could have put it at 20, but this is a fairly standard range that I set my Z for. I use that as the middle point. Now you have to remember that when you have a Z of 15, you're burning below the surface of the material. How deep that goes depends on the speed and the heat of the laser, and depends on the material class, whether it's softwood like pine or hardwood like oak. You get very, very different depths in your Z-axis. So again, we'll let this run for a while. We'll check back in a bit and see what kind of result we get. All right, we got a fairly good result. We have a little bit of burning, but when I run the sketch mode after this, what the sketch mode will do is even the surface. And I run the sketch mode at either 300 or 600 DPI, but it cleans all the black marks off. So we're going to set that up and run that, and then we'll check back again when it's done. Okay, so we're setting up the next pass. We're going sketch mode, dot correction of 0.01. Line interval is 300 DPI or 0.0847. Overscan, number of passes is 1. We're going to fill shapes individually because that does definitely have an effect, and we're going to stay the same power. So we'll see how that runs in about 15 minutes. We'll check back with you. Okay, so we're running in sketch mode. It's kind of hard to see, but if you look carefully, you'll see that sketch mode is now whitening everything on there. It's taking all the black marks out. That's the reason why we run different modes. When we're doing grayscale, we usually mix grayscale and threshold, or grayscale and sketch mode to clean these things up. Because if you just run grayscale, you get a lot of unburned paint. This helps clean that off. Okay, now for a quick little side note. This steel plate that this plexiglass is sitting on is what I use with clear acrylic to stop the plexiglass from fracturing and keeping the temperature down. This is basically 1/8 of an inch thick steel plate, and it helps me get much crisper images. I do have to sand it down with 800 grit every time before I use it so it doesn't leave marks. But this is one of the ways to do engraving where you're shining your laser down through the clear and you're basically burning the blue paint that's on the background. So probably won't get to this till tomorrow, but I just wanted to show the setup. Okay, there's our result. I'm really pleased with that. Grayscale is kind of a difficult thing to do, but if you do layered passes at different power and speeds, you can get different colors in the grayscale. This again was done with grayscale at 16,060 at 171 dpi, and then we did the sketch pass. When you saw this the first time, had a lot of uneven spots. The sketch pass came over at the same speed, 16,060 for power at 300 dpi. Now we have a beautifully defined grayscale, and that's really nice. That's just what I was hoping for. Now the only other question is Rust-Oleum going to work with Rust-Oleum clear? One of the problems I keep running into on some tiles is if I accidentally use Krylon clear, I get the paint blows up and it gets a crinkle effect. And when I get a nice piece like this, I kind of cringe because I'm going to have to put clear on it to seal it. So by tomorrow, we'll know what the answer to that is. Hope everybody enjoyed. Cloudfather out.